right. Here we are. So Saoirse, welcome. Christine, welcome. And here we are finishing our week 6 now. Wow. Amazing. And so Saoirse, before we jump into the recap, why don't you let everybody know kind of a little bit about what you do. We'll go specifically into what you did with Christine after the recap, but yeah, just to say a little bit about yourself.
So I am a Tantra practitioner, coach, sexologist, and an intuitive guide or coach as well. So what my niche or whatever, how I play with people is about expanding your consciousness. We're working through somatically through your body, mind, and soul. So it's about expanding and growing and all the good stuff that we want. Yeah. So rough things. So Tantra is an ancient healing format. So it's a shamanistic practice where we work through the 5 elements and we heal the body, mind, and spirit connection that way. And yes, we do play with our sexuality.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what I do. That's how I pay the bills.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for being with us here. And we're going to go into what you specifically did with Christine in a moment after we go through a quick little recap. So I'm just pulling that up here. And the picture that I came up with today was a lovely little picture of a head with some paper that has colors, and I liked it. So this was the Mind Week, and this is supposed to say fuel mind, and I didn't change that. So what we did this week and what we focused on was visualizing what matters to Christine, being present and being a badass, and creating intention towards purpose and what matters to Christine and what she wants. And we also, like we have done before, monitored the different health metrics and lots of reflecting with this week. And Christine mentioned a few times that she was very tired. And intention setting and adding playfulness to life. And spending more time breathing, checking in with the self, and being mindful. Asking questions and redefining what things look like, and so that they work for Christine. And like before, we've done our video reflections and our entries into the self-discovery journal, but more things this time. Lots of really neat additions that I'm really excited to hear about. And we're doing this recap and we'll do our adjustments as needed. And through the week, she's had access to myself and Saoirse if she's bumped up into anything. And for the goal number 3, we were tracking our biometrics in the app, which we'll go over shortly. And Christine's been doing her spin classes and her group fitness and doing other social activities to increase her activity in life and linking her routines together. This is cool. So you had like monstrous sleeps, hey?
Because I'm so tired.
Yeah. So like 8 hours on average per day is like the highest it's been. And that's a 60-minute increase from last week. Yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool. The next, we had quite a significant drop in the steps this week. And previous week, we had a decrease as well. And there's nothing wrong about that. The reason why I bring it up like this is because I want it to be in the background for our conversation, because a lot of times these types of things like less movement or more sleeping is generally going to be related to the conversation of how the week went. Nothing wrong with it though. And yeah, you killed it unless I missed anything. But I'm pretty sure that all of the content was completed for this week, which is amazing. And that is my short recap.
Ta-da!
So I'm going to throw it over to you, Saoirse, and maybe you can give a little bit more insight into what your intention was for Christine, and then asking some questions so that Christine can give us the lowdown on how it went.
Yeah. Well, my intention for this week was really to help you expand around the concept of that badass when we first had our first chat about a big sort of thing that I like to work with is really female empowerment, because I have my own drive believing that once we free women, the world are freed. So everywhere I get to work with a woman and make her a badass makes me happy. So I was very excited when we got to work on that. So everything that I created this week was really to help you sort of focus and expand around how to fit that into your life as an everyday sort of energy and frequency, and what that looks like for you. So, and how did you find that? Like, how did you find expanding badass into every day of your life? Because I know you had, when we spoke, you had specific areas that you felt like a badass in.
Mhm.
And so did you find room for expansion and bringing it into more places in your life, and then expand what a badass feels like for yourself?
It's crazy because the moment we had our talk, the day after we had our talk, or even no, that same day we had our talk and I got home right away, those areas where I don't normally feel like a badass, I was already confronted with it. And every single thing I did, or every sort of interaction I had, I was like, this is it. This is where I need to step it up. So much so where when I had to choose my theme song, I'm like, oh my God, these lyrics are speaking to me. I had a moment, I broke down. I'm like, damn it, let's do this shit. And so like every interaction, everything I did, I was like, what would the badass have done? Like, what would this badass me do? And yeah, and even the most pivotal parts, especially where it comes to like personal, especially, I was just like, it's time to put the foot down. It's time to be assertive. It's time to be that badass. And like, I made it known. Like, this is how I feel, and this is how it's gonna go moving forward. Like, enough. So yeah, no, it was awesome.
Yeah. How did that feel, being able to expand that? Like, and how did because we had a short sort of talk when we were talking about how there's sometimes a little bit of a blowback in your life
Mhm.
when you start asserting in areas where people are not comfortable with you asserting.
Mhm.
How did that feel, and how did you maneuver it? Or are we still needing some help with maneuvering that?
It was crazy. Like, there was actually a specific situation that had
Mhm.
come up, and it lasted the entire week, and it involved every single person in my life. And I was like, why am I being told this information by every single person in my life? And they had to make it known to me how they felt about this particular situation. And I'm like, y'all are grown ass adults, right? Like, you can take care of this. This has nothing to do with me. But they make it a point to involve me in it, to somehow get involved. And I'm just like, no, it's not happening today. And it lasted the entire week, to the point where, like, I was on a call. My sister was involved somehow. And so we had a call, and I'm just like, seriously, dude, this is all you, not me. Like, get it together. So yeah, no, it was good.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel, I mean, we only had a short week to start to develop this sort of badass muscle.
Mhm.
Do you feel like it's something you can carry forward? Do you feel like it's a good tool that you're going to move forward with? Is that badass muscle?
Oh my gosh, like, just that one conversation we had made me realize how much more empowered I need to be in those kind of situations.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, it opened my eyes, because I was just like, shit, like, no wonder I felt the way I did.
Yeah.
Because it happens every single time. Like, for some reason, whenever I go on a vacation, whenever I just want to relax my mind, get away, I come back and I'm confronted with it again. And this has been like this since high school, where I'd go on a trip for a vacation, I come back and people seek me out right away. And I'm like I can't even enjoy like reality. Like it's like smacked in the face with reality again. Like, okay, I'm back now. Who needs me again? So yeah, no, it was a recurring theme, and it came up the moment I came back from the retreat, and I was like, shit, again? Okay, here we go. So yeah.
Yeah. So are you looking forward to not having that happen to you more then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I made it very clear this week after having to deal with that sort of nonsense. I'm like, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
glad to hear that. What was your favorite out of the week? Because I gave you some sort of, because part of the challenge is expanding around how you move in your life. What was the most challenging thing and what was the funnest thing you did? Because that's...
Meditation I'm still working on. It's definitely a challenge. And the funny thing was, I read that article and I'm like, wow, you gave me no excuses for not doing meditation.
Well,
like it covered everything. It was like, well, if you're a professional, you can do this. If you're this, you can do it. If you're this, you can do it. Like, okay, I get it. I have no excuses. I can do this. It was just being able to carve the time out and be like, all right, I'm alone. I can focus and I can do it. Because I was kind of like, I was doing a meditation one night and I'm like, okay, my boyfriend's in the shower. I think this is enough time. And I got it. I was going, and I got right to like the rum part. And then all of a sudden the door opens, like, oh shoot. Like, oh no. Because I was just like, no, I need to be in the zone. And I like had to quit I think I was 3/4 of the way through. And I was like, damn it. Try again next time.
Yeah. And that's, I think, and meditation is probably one of the most profound tools for myself. It is my favorite tool to work with, to teach with, and mostly because like I said in that one interchange we had, is it's the place where I can tell my mind to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really, because that, and for how busy we're talking about how your brain is it's just like it's constant go. And we see that reflected in how you move and how you talk and how your body holds itself. So we can see that constantly. So to have that space of that fuck off is very badassery, right? So it is a practice. I encourage you to continue, but you're never gonna nail it. Never. And so it's not something you can perfect, which is wonderful and frustrating all at the same time.
Oh yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah. But it is really a really profound tool to help you find those places of like, this is me right now. And, Dan will walk in on part of my meditations and he now learns, he's like, okay, I'm just going to back off because that's my space. So I don't want to rip people's heads off or my own, or I find my places to breathe. It's really, yeah. And the tool with the meditation I gave you, it's a tantra meditation. So not only is it giving you that moment to tell your brain to fuck off, it's also energetically healing your connection to your mind, body, and spirit. So it's really strengthening all three of those parts that are ourselves and reconnecting them and healing anything that's happening without us having to go to a doctor and be like, can you sew this back together? You're doing it yourself, which is very empowering.
Yeah.
And I really commend you for doing that, because I only had a couple of seconds to like kind of chat you over it, and then you jumped in, and that's pretty remarkable. So it means you've got a great brain for meditation. So good job.
Yeah, well, and then I think like the articles were great, and but yeah, no, definitely, like I have a Spotify playlist for now. I've listed as badassery, but I actually, as a spin list, I had a badass spin list that I had created a long time ago, and like an art of leadership for women playlist, which was all just like kick-ass female empowerment songs. So I like went through those two playlists to kind of find that one song. But I actually ended up I have two, because like one was like speaking to like how I was feeling at the moment, and then the other one was more like the like real pump up, like, girl, you're a badass. So it was,
You can have as many badass songs as you want.
yeah.
How did you feel about dancing to the music?
Oh, I naturally have like a dancing spirit. Like I like used to do hip hop and teach hip hop, so
Gotcha.
yeah, no, that's not an issue. If anything, it actually really made me more aware of how much I miss singing, because I used to sing a lot, like all through elementary, high school, performing on stage. Like once a year, I do the anthems for the baseball team. Like I was like front and center performer, and I let a lot of that just kind of get tucked away because commitments to schooling, career, and for some reason I felt like I was being shy or just kind of shut it down. And so I was just like, you know what? I want to have singing again. Like I miss it. And it like it's that muscle, right? When you don't use it, you lose it. And I'm just like, no, I can't. Like I got to keep going. So yeah, I find every time I do some form of like journey and I start to build that confidence back up, the part of me that loves to sing starts to creep back up again too. So yeah.
So that is something that you really need to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. That sounds like that's a really important function to can make sure you're making time for the sounds to come out of your voice.
Yeah, it's funny too, because when I see people who I haven't seen in a long time, they're always like, so do you still sing? And I'm like, no. You know, it was my backup plan. Accounting came first.
Well, you can still sing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you have any questions or anything that you want to talk about with what I put you through? Because there was, like I said, there were some interesting things that hopefully made you do.
Well, I think like the daydreaming was awesome. I think that's how I got a lot of my sleep this week. Was I was so in my head for the first part of the week, and it was exhausting. Well, and also like every time I have like a moment where I just kind of break down, I'm like, okay, I'm exhausted. This is exhausting. And it also helped that like my boyfriend was also really tired, so he was going to bed early. So I'm like, all right, it's time for bed for both of us then. Let's go to bed early. So that's what really helped with sleep. But I also felt like because I was so in my head and thinking a lot, journaling, I'm like, all right, well, the only exercise I'm getting this week is the exercise I'm going to do. So I guess I'm not getting my step count in this week, even though I did try to do one lunch walk that did not help it at all. But yeah, no, I just what was I thinking? Yeah, no, I liked the daydreaming. I felt like though I was just trying to take advantage of any quiet moment I had, or like right before going to bed, I was like, I'm a badass. I'm a badass. I want to be a badass. I'm a badass. Like just like when I go to bed, like, this is what I want.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself with the daydreaming starting to create bigger dreams?
Yeah, it got me like really itching towards planning a wedding.
Yay.
Without a ring. but like it got me like thinking about it, got me thinking about weddings, like to the point where I'm like, all right, well, if I was planning a wedding during a pandemic, what would it look like? And like having those conversations with Mike and be like, hey, you know what? Who are the really important people in our lives? Like, if we're gonna do this and we like this is probably gonna be what it's gonna be. Like, I don't think we're gonna have a big wedding. And so we had like a couple conversations like that this week, because I was just in that whole daydreaming, and we're talking about homes, and we're talking about, are we going to buy a home? Like very much a lot of conversations this week were very future oriented, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you find that you usually don't have these future conversations, or no? Oh.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's really like the mind is such a beautiful tool we have. And we have this culture that we've created that lets it take us over. And so it starts to be the ruling part of our life when it's a tool. Mm-hmm. It's a it's a great tool. I like to use it to try and remember how to speak English a lot of times.
Mhm.
But the most powerful part of that tool is allowing us to create what we want to create, right? Where the mind goes, energy flows. And that's that whole aspect of daydreaming is going, what are the possibilities? That also starts to teach us how to creatively get out of problems. So we don't start to go into aspects of anxiety, panic, because you've already created the muscle of your mind being the tool of imagination. And the longer I allow my imagination to play, the quicker I can get out of situations where I don't think I can get out, because I've already created the foundation of imagination. So just by dreaming, that really beautiful tool that seems like what they used to yell at me as a kid anyways was to stop daydreaming, but because I didn't listen, which I usually don't, I have a strong gift of being able to get out of situations where a lot of people wouldn't. You know, anxiety usually doesn't plague me because I can just daydream my way out of this shit. That's how we create our future, is by imagining what I want. And then the practicality comes in. Again, another gift of the mind is being like, okay, I've dreamed about this. So now the mind goes, how do I make it happen? Instead of, oh my God, this can't happen. This is never going to happen. If the dream is big enough, or the dream is what I want, the mind will get into play. And that's again where meditation then ties in, is I've been busy telling the mind to fuck off, it's not in charge. But I've now taught it that I'm in charge. And so we're going to work together to create my dream.
Mhm.
So it all plays in beautifully for you. Yeah. So I encourage you to keep daydreaming.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about the daydreaming for me too was this week I had a recap on body, and one of the big things that actually really pissed me off the most about it was the fact I had to figure out a why. Like, I was so stuck in my head about what is my why, to the point where, why am I here? What is my existence for being here? And I think that's also what led to my like breakdown on, was it Tuesday morning, finding my theme song, because I'm like, I am so lost, like beyond lost. Like, I feel like I'm existing versus living for something.
Right.
And that also was leading me into, okay, this daydreaming is helping me figure out my why. Because if I don't have a why am I here? Like, you know, like, I love, like, yes, I hadn't seen my nieces in a long time, so I'm like, okay, well, I love my nieces, it's all for my nieces. But I'm like, at the end of the day though, there's going to be days where I'm not going to see my nieces, and I still need to exist and be in this world. And I didn't have that purpose, I didn't have that why beyond them, that was like making me feel beyond lost. And the daydreaming has really helped kind of put that more into focus.
That's profoundly awesome.
Yeah.
That's really profound to figure that out. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
May I add something?
Okay.
So, you know, when I left you and Jeanette left you after the body recap, it was very, very challenging to leave you in that state, because I know that we left you in that state.
Yeah.
Because we kept on like kind of like pointing towards something, and then you're like having this like experience of like, I'm so lost. And it's very gratifying for me to hear that, like, you allowed yourself to just reflect. And to the point, I love what you said. Like, I feel like I'm existing instead of living for something.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're worth it. Like, you are a powerful badass, and you have like so much to give, right? And to just have the experience, like, I'm just existing here. What am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to sit in that question takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to add that. And maybe it was meant to be that my internet was unable to like upload the thing, because I feel as though if you watch back our body recap, it might be very different. You might be able to actually discover something. So I'm just throwing that out there. And that's, yeah. super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great. I mean, no, there are no accidents. Things are created because that's what you needed to go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the bravery, I agree. The bravery comes in going through it. And
Mhm.
that's and you really have to commend yourself, because that is not something a lot of humans are capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like most humans, God bless them, and whichever God you want to do it, let them. Is they're looking for comfort ways to do, like to avoid looking at that hard thing, right? We live in a world of distraction, which is fine, but at the same time it's not fun, because you do just end up existing if you're distracting.
Mm-hmm.
So to sit in that really uncomfortable, again, only a badass does that. Yeah, only a
That's awesome.
badass can do that. Yeah, so that's spectacular.
Amazing. So what I want to know, Christine, is surrounding like this dreaming. So I think that was super cool for you to have to be in the oh, hi Norman, to be considering, like, what else did you discover, like any other themes that you dreamt about?
It mostly was around my future, like what I've always wanted, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know, like we're working really, really hard to exist now, but what's the end goal of all of that?
Mhm.
And if I don't have a goal, then yeah, I'm still existing. So
Mm.
it was really just future oriented stuff. It was like the house I want to be in one day,
Mhm.
like getting married, having the kids, like all that sort of stuff. Like, and it was just all open conversations as well. Like, it wasn't just me daydreaming. It was like, hey, talking to Mike and be like, you know, this is how I feel about this. How about you talk to me about this? What are your thoughts on this?
Mm.
Because for me, it's also so important that my goals and my dreams align with what he wants too, right? Because
Mm.
it's a partnership. We've been together for 11 years. And if that's not a goal we both have, then what am I doing with you? Like,
Mhm.
so that also became very important this week, to like even be able to talk about that sort of stuff. Because I feel like for a really long time as a couple, we never really discussed the hard questions. What do we
Mm.
want? What do you want to do? You know, so
Mm.
yeah, no, that was very important when it came to daydreaming.
I don't know if this is off topic. I'm just curious, do you guys have a lot of connective practices? Like, do you do connective practices together?
Aside from watching TV together, no. Well, like we don't, like, we have like our work, and then we have our time together that we make like very like we've become more aware of time we spend together, because there have been moments where we are just so consumed in stuff we're doing for ourselves, which is great, but at the same time it's like it felt like as though we were living like very single lives,
Yes.
instead of living together as one and doing things for each other. And that was huge, and that changed about a couple years ago.
Awesome.
Yeah, because that had to be dealt with.
Yeah, I encourage you to look for some, like, I mean, I know it's a little bit off topic, but because you're starting to look at how I want my future to look at, and you're having, I like to use the word focus, not goal. And to me, they're different things, because I think goals freak me out. I don't, as soon as someone gives me the word goal, I want to give you a middle finger. So personal, like it's personal things, whatever works for you. But if the focus is we want to get married and we want to have children, for me, focus allows more expansion than a goal. Because if I have to check it off, I don't dive into it. But that's how I look at it. But if you're finding that your focus together is these things, then we might want to consider looking at getting you guys some deeper connective practices. But that's a conversation. I was just curious if you're doing that, because it's really cool that you started to engage on how to focus together.
Yeah, no, and I think for a really long time we took being together so for granted. Like we've been together for so long. Like what are we worried about, right? But at the same time, it's like, no, like I I need you. You need me. Like, like let's feel wanted. Like so yeah, no, and like it has come a long way for sure.
That's,
Yeah.
that's good to hear. So the question then too is to take that same thing, that same sort of focus in your badassery is understanding that you also need yourself
Hmm.
to get through all of this fun beautifulness. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm totally understanding like me time and the fact that I finished a blanket, like a whole entire, oh my God. That was a project. But it allowed me, like it was like another time for me to be like daydream, escape, mindlessness, like no stress. And so yeah, no, it was good. I needed it.
That's awesome. I'm so
Blanket
glad I got
sock.
to do this with you. It was so much fun. I really appreciate the opportunity to create this for you and then for you to play in it. It makes me very happy.
Yeah, no, it was very like a very productive week for me. Like like in a way, I kind of wish like this week was like earlier on in the program, just because if I was able to take this sort of mindset and run with it throughout the rest of the weeks even sooner, like I don't know, I just feel like maybe it would have impacted me in other areas. Because I know for me, and Cam, you'll probably notice this, but like you see, like I'll tick a task off, like I'll do it. I'll eat clean, I'll work out to no end.
Mhm.
But the thing that always gets in the way of any, like in a lot of people I see myself, like it's up here,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The mind is, like I said, it's a beautiful tool to play with, but we have allowed it to run our life.
Hmm.
It's actually one of the very like whenever I consider the programming, um, every time aside from this time has always started with minds, always. And the only the only reason why we started with nutrition was just to try something new.
Mm.
Yeah, but so
Still good though. I learned a lot
yeah.
this week.
So, but the reason why I wanted to try it in a different format is because it actually doesn't matter what order you do it in, because everyone's different and it's all a journey. And the contrast of how you are being when you're not a badass needs to also be present before you practice being a badass. So who's to say that if you had it early that you would have even gotten what you got?
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to notice the distinction between what is happening when you aren't a badass and when you are, right? And yeah, so I
Everything
think that
ends for perfection.
Yeah.
exactly. And it's too what matters is what you do after all of this, actually.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And so that's where we're setting that up now, for you to go forth, and be able to thrive, because that's what really matters, is you being able to have the tools to expand yourself, at any moment, any time, like a badass. And you know, from day one we said purpose is what was missing. Here we are now, right? Just imagine those conversations then, and I'm sitting there and asking you questions to try to understand what matters to you. And again, a lot of the stuff was external. A lot of it was external. It was my nieces, a lot of different components of your life requiring other people to feel whole. And what was missing is you.
Mhm.
And you being able to have the courage to discover that is what, honestly, like, no matter how any week goes, you deserve 2 times the praise, because you're the one who needs to take that in and look at the difficult stuff. And we already talked about that, where you know, you've done such a great job at doing that. But I wanted to bring it up again because really, honestly, it without you being willing and having that courage, it myself or Saoirse would be useless, right? So thank you also for taking that on, because it's very rewarding, honestly. And it will be even more rewarding in like 3 weeks when or 2 weeks when we are complete with the 8 weeks, because that's when you get to say how your life goes.
Mhm.
That's the exciting part, is that the challenge, why I don't like to use that word, is that it usually starts and ends.
Mhm.
However, at the end of all of this journey, it's actually the beginning, you can think.
Yeah.
You know? So we are at 4:47. We've got 13 minutes. So what I really want to know is actually, sorry, before I say that, pivoting. Saoirse is talking about daydreaming. Saoirse is talking about you being able to be more future oriented inside of your thoughts and inside of your speaking. And you found that you've been taking action, like speaking to Mike and talking to him about things that really matter to you. And that it's almost like, had you start to problem solve to like figure out your wedding even amidst a pandemic. Notice
Mhm.
that? Pivoting will happen easier inside of future-based conversations with yourself and others around you. Because no matter what happens, you are good. You're clear on what you want. And as soon as something like gets in your way, you're like, all right, I'm gonna punch through the door. Fine. Or if there's a metal door, you're like, fine, I'm getting my blowtorch. I don't know. Like, you'll figure out a way to get through.
Mhm.
And that's the point, is that if you allow yourself to trust, like you trust yourself and you access that creativity. Sorry, I just had a phone call. If you allow yourself to access that creativity, you can do anything, because you can pivot in an instant. And I wanted to bring that up because we've been developing this notion of pivoting.
Mhm.
And I think that something else that Saoirse said that would be that I want to highlight is the idea between focus and goal. Because you are very goal oriented, tick the box. However, what would it be like if it were to be like just like a focus, right? When you consider it a focus rather than a goal, it might change the way you relate to the action or the behavior.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to highlight those few things because I think that they were very noteworthy and pivotal in you creating your life, yourself, your everything. So yeah, anything you want to add to that or question anything, either of you?
I'm good. I think I'm
Cool.
really excited. It is really going to be exciting to see how you're going to move this forward, which
Mm-hmm.
these are just tools in your toy box now.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So you can pull them out willy-nilly and or not. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really the key is all of these are tools for you to move forward, you know, and the more you use them, the better skilled you are. You know, it's like the hammer. You can use it to harm someone, you can use it to build something. You can use it to build a birdhouse, or you can build it your house. It's all your skill level, and the more you utilize it, the better you get at it.
Mhm.
And then eventually you might get a nail gun. I don't know. That's up to you.
Well, it's all about efficiency, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what I'm curious about, I want to know, Saoirse, from your recommendation. But this so Christine's doing her self-discovery journal, and it's very important that she practices this sort of daydreaming, and future-based, like, reflection kind of thing. What would be the recommendation that you would have for her so that she could continue developing that muscle, and she would be able to continue on with her self-discovery journal?
The first word that comes to mind is space.
Mm-hmm.
So space for us in Tantra is the element that sits in the heart, and it contains everything. So if you can find the space to sit in your heart and allow yourself the places to create in, and creativity is expansive. So whether it's 2 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 seconds, the more you allow that space to expand, the easier it becomes, and it won't be a chore, and it won't be something you'll have to do. You will just naturally do it. So it's really about allowing yourself the space to allow it to happen, which is very hard for someone like you who wants to control everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the control will come into the allowing myself to free myself. That's where the control will come in. So you can ease yourself into it by going, I'm going to focus on finding the space, and then whatever happens in the space is whatever happens.
I love it.
Yeah,
So
space is the thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is really finding the value in the space. And remember, space is in the heart. So if you allow yourself space, you allow yourself to be in your heart.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So something I just want to ask, actually. So I just related to this situation. So something that I do with my meditation is I will meditate, and I often will write after. Like I will write, like typing. And I would often I would meditate, and I would say, I will write if I want to, and if I don't want to, I won't. Would that be kind of in line with what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great recommendation. If I want to write, I want to write. If I don't, I don't, kind of thing. I take it one step further. Is, do I want to sit and daydream? Do I want to dance after a meditation? Because the meditation is the space, right? Like that's what meditation is about. It's or one of the things it's about. And it depends on the type of meditation you do, and blah, 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 because that's a long conversation. But whatever meditation you choose to do, in that meditation, allow yourself to become or find whatever needs to come out. So if that's journaling, great. If that's, I feel the need to, in Tantra, we don't, it's meditate before you masturbate, or it's not Tantra. So if you feel that's what you need to do after you meditate, you go. But the meditation is, again, about finding the space to see what wants to come up and out. So if it's writing, great. If it's dancing, great. If it's finding your partner and making love, great. Those are all, that's what we're doing, is because life is, I'll go philosophical for a moment, and where I come from is life is supposed to be expansive, and fear contracts us. And the more fearful we are, the smaller we get. And then the world seems scarier and scarier. So the more we can allow ourselves to expand, the less scary the world is, the more fun shit that comes in, the more stuff that can get to us, the more I can move in the world and feel that it is a great place to live and expand into. But the more I can show up. So it is really just space. But if you need something directly focused after, you can set up. I write or I draw or I practice my tantra after my tantra. So it's your choice, right? This is your life and your expression.
Mhm.
So yeah, so and that's the badassery thing, right? You sit down, you do your meditation, and you go, what would a badass do right now? Should go have a nap. Okay, great. Go have a nap. That's what you need.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I would
Great. So,
leave that badass thing up in your altar or your space that you meditate, so you know what you're doing.
so what do you take away from all that, Christine?
I did take a nap this week, a long nap.
Yes.
That's what I took a couple naps actually. But yeah, no, I totally get the whole expansive and like feeling small with the fear and like, yeah, I completely understand what you were talking about right there, because the more badass I feel, the more willing and ready I am to take on the world. So
Take up space.
yeah.
As a woman, take up space.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. And here's the thing too that has to come into, a lot of people get really kind of scared of that, is you taking up space doesn't take space away from other people. It creates more space for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So take up space.
Oh, for sure. Like, especially like the whole entire accounting industry was very much male dominated. And for me to be in a time where females are CEOs and like I'm running the Vancouver chapter board as their chair, like, and then I used to like, I had female supervisors. I'm like, hell yes. Like, this is exactly who I want to emulate. This is exactly where I want to be one day.
Mhm.
And that's like why, like in my work, at least, like that when we used to talk, when we were talking earlier in the week, like that is a place where I know I'm a badass and I feel that way all the time. And just having to reflect on those moments and then taking it to other aspects of my life where I need to feel that exact same power. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
No, I mean, I don't think you can nail it more than taking up space.
Yeah, totally. Just so excited with the way that this all turned out for this week. I'm so happy. Seriously, like I Saoirse, like when I encourage you to watch the body recap video too, you'll understand.
I have to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just very proud, I guess, like you, and inspired, and a lot of other words. And for one, I just on the topic of what you just said, it just makes me happy that that you feel badass and that you don't feel small, that you have access to being able to be yourself. Because I mean, for me as a male, I'm lucky in that regard that I've never had to experience that. And so I love hearing this because it gives me somewhat access. I will never understand, but I just feel very grateful to have heard what I just heard. And I just wanted to say that. So I appreciate like both of you like saying what you said. And you know.
Well, thanks for holding the space for us to say it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
And on that note, it is 5 o'clock.
It is indeed.
So 'tis time to bid farewell, and it starts the community week.
Cool.
And I'll be in communication with you, Christine, and we'll actually I'm going to stop the recording, so we'll say bye to everyone, and we'll talk to them next week.